The ancestor did not endure the freezing rain or the bite of cold steel just so you could trade your lineage for a freelance remote contract. Evolution is a hard ledger of shared ATP, favoring the collective that pools its energy to build a redoubt that outlasts the winter. In the visceral history, there was no autonomous individual, there was only the solid integrity of the bloodline. The grid has performed a terminal inversion of this survival signal, marketing isolation as high status to ensure your genetic future hits absolute zero. By convincing you that autonomy is superior to ancestry, the machine has performed a surgical extraction of your strategic depth. You are winning a solitary game in a basement while your lineage is being liquidated by the systemic drift. A family is a private bank of power, a point of zero entropy that the grid cannot easily crack. An autonomous node has no war chest. Every bit of energy you generate is consumed by the grid's administrative overhead. You aren't building a legacy, you are maintaining a liquid profile for a platform that doesn't know your name. The basal ganglia, sensing the lack of a tribe, enter a state of permanent status panic, reformatting your brain to seek validation from the algorithm instead of protection from the pack. The grid is actively selecting for this agile serf because you have no roots. You are the perfect biomass, a node that can be moved, taxed, and deleted without a single solid hand rising to stop it. The lone wolf of 2026 isn't a predator. He's a scavenger waiting for the grid to drop a notification. The enclosure of the individual is now a total systemic reality. The machine understands that the most profitable asset is the one that pays for its own cage. We have moved from employment to subscription-based existence, where you own the liability and the grid takes the yield. You are not a business owner. You are an entrepreneur of your own survival, paying for your own hardware and your own medical repairs while the machine harvests the spread. This is the ultimate extraction. Systemic analysis reveals that a solitary node has 3 times the administrative friction of a collective. You spend half your metabolic energy just managing the systems of independence, tax, branding, networking, leaving you with zero ATP to challenge the systemic drift. There is no longer a private redoubt for the architect. Work from anywhere means the grid is everywhere. Your home is a studio, your bed is an office. The enclosure of your time is complete. The grid has performed a total extraction of the silent spaces where true strategy was once forged. You are autonomous only in the sense that you are 100% exposed to the grid's surveillance at all hours. You are working 80 hours a week for a platform that can delete your entire life with a single software update. That is not sovereignty, that is managed stasis. The solids own the infrastructure and the land. You own a ghost profile in a machine that is biologically liquidating you. You are the wallpaper in your own prison, convinced that the lack of walls is freedom. The steel of the city is a frozen cage, a lonely actor on a liquid stage. Do your push-ups in the blackest rain, to hide the cold and to hide the pain. Put on your gloves, for the signal is dead. The freedom you bought was a lie instead. The rain is falling on a ghost domain, while the grid harvests every drop of your brain. The fire is ash, and the wind is loud, just another shadow in a digital cloud. The bloodline is a biological redoubt, a point of zero entropy that the grid cannot simulate or replace. In the visceral history of the architect, the individual was a fragment, a component of a larger, more durable machine designed to survive the freezing rain and the strike of cold steel. Sovereignty was never a private asset. It was a shared metabolic surplus, a war chest of genetic information passed through the fire of the collective. But the systemic drift of 2026 has engineered a terminal inversion of this drive. The grid has identified tribal integrity as a source of catastrophic friction for the total velocity of extraction. To optimize the meat, the machine must first isolate the node. It markets autonomy as the ultimate evolutionary status, while in reality, it is performing a surgical liquidation of your genetic future. You believe you are free because you have no master, failing to see that you have also lost your shield. Every bit of ATP you generate as a solitary unit is siphoned into the grid's administrative overhead. You are a biological radiator in a 2x2 meter pod, burning your cellular life force to maintain a personal brand that the grid will overwrite the microsecond your pulse stops. This is the status trap of the sovereign individual. You are winning a digital game of status while your physical lineage hits absolute zero. The basal ganglia, sensing the lack of a tribe, enter a state of permanent status panic, reformatting your brain to seek validation from the algorithm instead of protection from the pack. The grid is actively selecting for this agile serf. Agile means you have no roots. Agile means you have no territory to defend. Agile means you You are liquid biomass, ready to be moved, taxed, and deleted without a single solid hand rising to stop it. The lone wolf isn't a predator. He's a scavenger waiting for the grid to drop a notification in the dark. The neural rot of the independent lifestyle begins with the erasure of the 100-year plan. In the solid world, the architect built for the lineage. He forged the steel of his name. He performed the push-ups of survival in the dirt to ensure the redoubt held for his heirs. Evolution is a hard ledger of shared metabolic debt. It favors the entity that can secure territory and accumulate a surplus. But the grid has reformatted success into a series of 24-hour dopamine spikes. You are independent from your ancestors, but you are a slave to the update. Your epigenetic markers are being methylated into silence. The genes for territorial defense and expansion are being turned off because the environment no longer rewards them. You are undergoing a quiet, comfortable epigenetic sterilization. You aren't a pioneer. You are a service node in a terminal state of crystallization, freezing alone in the digital void. The enclosure of the individual is now the mandatory atmosphere of the grid. The machine understands that the most profitable asset is the one that pays for its own cage. We have moved from employment to subscription-based existence, where you own the liability and the grid takes the yield. You are told you are an entrepreneur, but you are actually an entrepreneur of your own survival, paying for your own hardware, your own energy, and your own medical repairs, while the machine harvests the spread. This is the absolute zero of agency. Systemic analysis reveals that a solitary node has 3 times the administrative friction of a collective. You spend half your metabolic energy just managing the systems of independence, tax, branding, networking, leaving you with 0 ATP to challenge the systemic drift. You are too busy managing your autonomy to notice that you have 0 defensive depth. There is no longer a private territory for the architect. Work from anywhere means the grid is everywhere. Your home is a studio. Your bed is an office. The enclosure of your time is complete. The grid has performed a total extraction of the silent spaces where true strategic crystallization was once forged. You are autonomous only in the sense that you are 100% exposed to the grid's surveillance at all hours. You are working 80 hours a week for a platform that can delete your entire life with a single software update. That is not sovereignty, that is managed stasis. The solids own the infrastructure, the raw energy, and the land. You own a ghost profile in a machine that is biologically liquidating you. You are the wallpaper in your own prison, convinced that the lack of walls is freedom. The architecture of the 2030 grid is a slaughterhouse of light and silicon. It monitors your social performance to ensure you stay in a state of controlled insecurity. A lonely node is a compliant node. It seeks validation from the terminal because it has no solid validation from the pack. You are a singular liquid unit of ATP exhaustion, drifting through a digital enclosure where the only thing real is the cost of existence. The tribe has been liquidated. The us has been deleted. You stand alone on the cold metal floor, gripping the air as if it were steel, while the rain of data washes away the lust of your relevance. The freedom you feel is just the sensation of being the only one left in the room when the lights go out. You are not a king. You are a gladiator paying for his own sand in an empty arena. The steel is cold. The cage is wide, with nowhere left for the ghost to hide. Do your push-ups in the blackest rain to mask the cold and to mask the pain. Put on your gloves, for the fire is out. The freedom you bought was a trap, no doubt. The rain is falling on a sterile ground, where the voice of the tribe is never found. The cradle is rusted. The fire is grey. The architect watches the world decay. The pulse is a cost and the name is a file, a lonely node in a liquid trial. The grid is full and the man is thin. The price of the self is the rot within. The end of the line is a silent room, a self-paid rent in a high-tech tomb. 0-hour synchronization. The autonomy simulation is deactivated. In the year 2036, the sovereign individual has been reclassified as a self-liquidating asset. You are not a freelancer. You are a ghost archive in a locked room, paying for the oxygen required to process your own erasure. The systemic drift toward absolute isolation is complete. You believed you were escaping the hierarchy, but you only succeeded in removing every barrier between your jugular and the grid's extraction teeth. The visceral history of the pack is a dead signal. You are a singular point of entropy in a frictionless industrial wasteland, siphoned of your cellular heat to maintain a database that has already forgotten your name. Analyze the metabolic bankruptcy of the 2036 shell. 10 years of carrying the 100% risk load have induced terminal ATP exhaustion. exhaustion. In the solid world, the tribe acted as a thermal buffer. In the synthetic zero, you are a biological radiator leaking voltage into the vacuum. The mitochondria are failing. The heart muscle has softened into a state of liquid compliance, incapable of holding the high-friction tension of a real architect. You are burning your own bone marrow to fund the subscription for the terminal that monitors your pulse. This is the ultimate visceral breach. You are biologically too bankrupt to even contemplate resistance. You are a cold node in a hot grid, and your only utility is the heat you generate while you rot. The neural rot has finalized the feedback cage. Your brain is no longer a sovereign engine. It is a sub-processor for the central server. The prefrontal cortex is a vestigial ruin, bypassed by the basal ganglia's hardwired connection to the visibility score. You believe you are making independent choices, but you are merely reacting to the high-frequency pulse of the algorithm's whip. The grid has performed a surgical extraction of your internal silence. Every second of your autonomous life has been metered, taxed, and sold. You are a managed ghost, a brain that accepts its own liquidation because it has lost the neural capacity to say no. The fire of Prometheus is ash. The LED sun of the terminal is the only light left in the ward. Evolutionary termination is reached when the genetic signal becomes a zero-sum game. The autonomous node is a dead end by design. You have no heirs to carry the legacy because a lineage was a high-friction liability that threatened your mobility. In 2036, you are the last link in a chain that has been rusted through by the market of one. You traded your biological immortality for liquid flexibility, and the grid has captured the spread. You are a genetic file marked for deletion. The fire of the bloodline is gone, replaced by a 10-year archive of engagement metrics, owned by a corporation that views your existence as an overhead cost. The architect is extinct. The subscriber is terminal. The enclosure of 2036 is absolute. The machine has perfected the art of the self-paid prison. You own the tools, you own the cage, and you own the risk, while the solids own the air you breathe. There is no private territory left. The grid is the mandatory atmosphere of biological existence. You are sovereign only in the sense that you are 100% responsible for your own disposal. The ledger is closed. Your autonomy was the grid's way of removing the overhead of your protection. You look into the dark, and the dark looks back, calculating the exact microsecond when your metabolic surplus hits zero. The freedom you feel is the sensation of a falling man who hasn't hit the ground yet.